Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this second day of the final conference of the Income Tourism Project. Today we are going to talk about challenges and advantages of cooperative learning in higher education in tourism. And we start now with a very special case of good practices. I give the floor to Elísio Silva of Dual, German-Portuguese Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Good morning, Elísio.
Good morning. I need to share my presentation. Okay, good morning, and thank you very much to the organizers for the invitation to be here today. In this short time, I will try to share my experience in this area of cooperative learning of tourism. I have been at the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce and Industry for 27 years, and I am the director of the Department of Vocational Training, which has the name Dual. Founded in 1954, the German Chamber has about 1,030 members. In 1983, at the initiative of 12 German companies, the Chamber started its professional qualification service, which in 2007 changed its name to Dual. Initially, there was only one center in Lisbon and another in Porto. In 1999, it also opened a center in Portimão. The main objective was to carry out training following the German dual system. Dual has its headquarters in Lisbon. In last years, Dual has over 1,000 trainees per year. Its founders were 12 German companies with a strong tradition of supporting vocational training, both in Germany and in the countries where they were present. Some of this company continues to support Dual today. The involvement of companies is part of the culture of learning, but it is not just German companies that participate in the training that we developed. In 1983, all training companies were German, but today only 20% of training companies are Germany from a total of approximately 340. Dual philosophy is based on the principle that everyone wins: companies, trainees, and schools, but also society and its organizations. Dual Center in Portimão, which is exclusively dedicated to the area of hospitality and tourism, was created in 1999. In 2006, started the cooking course, and 2 years later, the restaurant technician course. After 2011, all courses were conducted in German language only and strictly complying with German regulations. From that years onwards, we started courses in Portuguese language in partnership with the Portuguese Institute of Employment, which is maintained until today. Also, our dual training center in Portimão followed the same philosophy. It was founded by a small group of companies that felt the need for support in professional training. But from the beginning till our days, other companies joined the initial group, including 4- and 5-star hotel from Portimão region. Today, we teach 5 courses, all aimed at the hospitality sector with the support of Portuguese Employment Institute. These courses have a duration of three years and have a strong practical component. Trainees spend 40% of their time in companies and 60% in theoretical training at our center. In this training system, companies are not only important, they are fundamental and play a critical role. They develop part of the training based on a set of real activities in a real context, increasing the motivation of the student to learn. The collaboration of the companies around the education and professional training system is fundamental, from planning and execution to the evaluation and improvement of the system. Training of qualified technicians in line with the needs of companies and rejuvenation of the work teams and reduction in the costs of recruitment and selections. In fact, the company play a major role since a large part of the learning process takes place in the company itself and is guided by designated employees of the company, the tutors. The tutors are fundamentals. In this context, tutors are a key element in the whole process. They develop the activity plan, ensure the necessary logistics and condition, welcomes and integrates the trainees, monitor and track the development of the activity plan, articulate with the training provider and give feedback and evaluate. In that, and considering that, training in the company has a significant duration. The development of training in the company must follow an individual activity plan, and the tutor usually has a technical profile, but not always pedagogical preparation. The role of tutor is fundamental to the success of training in the company. Their functions are as important and as critical. There is no doubt that companies are fundamental to the dual system, but what will be the advantage for them to participate in the process? I will say that there are many and there is no disadvantage, but I emphasize the following. Skilled and available workers as needed, influence on the content and the quality of training, influence on the number of young people in training, reduced recruitment costs, low risk of contracting not suitable employees, dynamics of innovation and internal development. Trainees perform real tasks during training and social responsibility. In summary, and taking into account the German experience, I will say the following. To know the company needs is crucial for the system. Learning is interconnected with real work. Direct relationship between markets, needs, and training providers is fundamental. The combination of theory and practice provides holistic training. In this system, the transition between training and the labor market is smooth. I would also like to mention some key elements for sustainable vocational training. The company should be co-responsible for the training content. Practical training is in the company should be in direct articulation with the theoretical training at school. There should be qualified trainers and tutors in school and companies. A quality assurance must be guaranteed independently throughout the training process. And last but not least, the curricula and final exams should be equivalent across the countries. In this way, companies and society will recognize and value vocational training. Before finish, I would like to talk a little bit about the opportunities for tourism teaching institution and in particular for higher education institution. According to the OECD, Portugal, Malta, Spain, and Italy are the countries with the highest percentage of population with an education level below 3. Holland and Germany are in different situations, although in the case of Germany, is often discussed the importance of increasing the percentage of the population with higher education level. On the other hand, if we look at the actual Portuguese data, we found that unemployment rates tend to increase after reaching very low values on last years. And if we consider the young unemployment rate, the more evident becomes to need to invest in their qualification. In fact, it is the OECD itself that make the following recommendation. Carry out a rigorous assessment of all vocational education and training programs, unify the different vocational training system, which include a learning component in company, strengthen the links between the research and companies, increase management skills by developing specific training courses for managers, develop lifelong learning and adult education program for low-skilled workers. I believe that these recommendations leave many opportunities for higher education institution, also for those working in tourism. And when we think of tourism, we cannot think only in the most obvious professions. In addition to housekeepers and cookers, the sector also needs managers, gardeners, data analysts, entertainers, and many others. But recruiting people for all these areas, it's not easy. In fact, also, unemployment rate increase, companies have difficulty in recruiting for some function. The offer, it's not in line with the needs, and the dual system remain a good investment, naturally. Thank you for your attention and have a good work.
Thank you, Elisio. Thank you so much for your collaboration. We have now the first round table of the day, which will be moderated by Tara Duncan, President of the Tourism and Leisure Education Association, Atlas, and will be attended by Alexandra Correia, lecturer at Polytechnic Institute of Viana do Castelo, Frederica Burini, President of the MD course in Planning and Management of Tourism Systems at the University of Bergamo, Daniela Garbin Pranicevic, lecturer at the University of Split, and Jan Spetch, lecturer at DHBW Ravensburg, and also Maria Avellino, Director of the Institute for Tourism, Travel and Culture at the University of Malta, and also Sylvia Olé, lecturer at the University of Girona. Welcome all.
Thank you, Ricardo, and thank you, Elisio, for a really interesting presentation to start. Ricardo, thank you for doing the introductions. It saves me trying to pronounce names. I think you probably did a better job than I did. Thank you. So today's roundtable is continuing on the theme of today, which is about challenges and advantages of cooperative learning in higher education. Yesterday, I sent the panelists some questions that I thought we might consider today. So we will get straight into it because we have 5 or 6 panelists and a lot of questions in quite a short period of time. So I sort of split today into 3 sections, one about the benefits for students, one about working with industry, and then hopefully we will have time at the very end for each of the panelists to give a short soundbite on ideas towards the future. So let's start with thinking about the benefits for students. Some of this links in, for those of you in the audience who are watching at a later date, to the webinar yesterday morning about key skills, and asking if any of the teaching staff involved in the programs have noticed differences in student engagement after they've completed their internships or their work experiences. Are students better able to relate their practical experiences to what they've been learning in the classroom? Are they more critical, more engaged, more reflective? And are you getting feedback from students about their experience and how this translates into the classroom? Maybe I can ask each of the panelists to reflect on that, and I'll go by my screen. So Alexandra, can I ask you to start?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I definitely recognize the students really felt they have improved their self-confidence, their self-awareness, and also their motivation. I really felt that they were more interested in participating in the classes, but also I felt that they were very much interested in sharing their experiences with their colleagues, and also trying to create or to reinforce the dynamic within the class. Because whenever I was talking and sharing some ideas, they would relate with the situations or the examples they were living and experiencing. So that was very useful for me as well, because they could see that what I was saying was actually right and important and useful. And so I really think that they were more proactive and definitely more interested. So I can obviously add some more ideas, but I think I will ask or give you the word, Tara, so you can pass the word to other colleagues as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Alexandra. Daniela, maybe over to you.
Yes, as I can also share similar experience like Alexandra said. I noticed that my students, after work practicing or some kind of internship, actually become more engaged in a lecture, in the classroom. They actually prefer the team approach in learning, and actually they become more reflective. They actually maintain a big picture. They better maintain and develop a big picture of understanding some topics which are part of our course. And actually, in that actually sense, I find actually myself that I need to make some changes in my course and actually enable more practice to students and actually enable them to actually benefit from work practice within course.
Thanks, Daniela. Sylvia?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. So I agree with what Alexandra was saying. In our case, our students, they were very happy to be in the pilot and have this experience. And when getting their feedbacks, one of the things or one of the comments that they were saying was that they realized that what was taught in class was useful somehow, because when they go to the companies, they can apply it. So sometimes, they feel like you are explaining something to them, but they don't feel that they can use this, no? So when they went to the companies and saw that what they were learning was applied to the daily life, let's say, they were very, very happy and they felt proud of this. So they became more engaged and they became more committed also with the companies and with the different stakeholders as well, because they just, it also helped them to create some networks and this was good also for them. So I would say that it was very positive, and that yes, they were more engaged and they grow as person also, not only in terms of academic, but also in terms of being better professionals and
really developing those soft skills.
Yes.
Yeah. Jan, over to you.
Well, I'm in a kind of a special case, since we only have and always had dual students. So I didn't see any change, obviously. But let me put it on a larger scale. I thought of this, or I thought about that question. And our students in general show remarkable development over the 3 years of their studies, and they seem to grow up very fast. We're even sometimes joking that we are receiving children and we see off adults. And I really believe this is due to the duality and the responsibility that the students have to take in their companies. I mean, there are so many tasks they have to do all together. They are not living with their parents because they have to move to the company, they have to move back to the university, they have to work, they have to study, and somehow they have to integrate all these things. And that really helps them to grow up and to engage better in anything they do.
Thank you. Yes, Federica.
Thank you so much. I think I can share the view that my colleagues said. I would point out 3 main aspects, if you want. The first one is based on teamwork. So we can see that are more comfortable with group works. They can share ideas and organize themselves in group work. Second is about communication skills. They are more confident in oral presentations, which is not always something which they are used to do. And I think that these skills will be very important for the future also of their professional lives. And third point is about reflexivity and self-consciousness. I think that they can use critical and creative thinking quite easily, more than before. And they are fully aware that this improvement will help them a lot in the professional skills that they are obtaining. So these are the 3 main points that I would like to focus on. I must say that our master course each year has a lot of students. It's increasing the number of students. So this year we have 100 students in a master course, which is increasing a lot. So it's difficult for every component of the staff to understand the development that these groups of students, in this case, we had 12 people participating in the income project. So not for every one of the staff it is easy to figure out what I'm telling you, but I can tell you that for this group of people, we could see these 3 main changes, let's say.
Thank you. Marie, thank you for joining us. I was just asking the panelists if you've noticed any differences in student engagement after their experiences. So I wonder if you could maybe share your thoughts.
Yes, I think this experience was very positive for our students. Our students were from the first year, bachelor's degree. So when they come to us, they have no work experience. And the fact that we had the trio system whereby they were also not just being in class, but actually engaging with industry, they realized the value of the soft skills, and they also realized how this would help them when they come to become or take on some employment in the future. I also noticed the fact that because they sort of work together with other students and other partners from different countries, they were exposed to this and really, let's say, thought it was quite something positive to see how other, let's say, countries operate or other places sort of work. And I think it also encouraged them now to go this year, well, next academic year, to go on an Erasmus exchange mobility. So I think this has been quite positive. In the sense it opened up their line of vision. It's not as maybe narrow and focused, but it's more open. So I think this was very, very good for them.
Thank you. I'm just making notes so that hopefully I might be able to summarize at the end. Thank you. This sort of, my next question follows on, I think, from what Daniela started to talk about, and is what challenges do you as lecturers and teaching staff face with engaging with students who have gone through these cooperative learning processes? You know, have you had to change how you teach? Have you had to change content? So Daniela talked about making courses more practical. Now, obviously, Jan, you won't have seen these changes, but I'm wondering if you can reflect on how perhaps over time as you see students coming back from these sort of experiences, whether they're expecting different things in the classroom as well. Let's go at a different order. Maybe I can start with Federica this time.
Yes, thank you very much. I think that we have many challenges, especially after these years that we are living. First of all, the first challenge is to find a correct balance between traditional learning and teaching and new, innovative, technological, digital, interactive, dual, double integrated forms of teaching. I think this is the best and the highest challenge that we all had this year. In our master course, having students coming from all over the world, we have also the second challenge is to face the way to make them interact, knowing that they come from different backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, and also bachelor degree, different bachelor degrees. And so the way of promoting teaching, which is intercultural at the same time as we follow different disciplines. So every discipline must be interdisciplinary at the same time. So this is the second big challenge. So try to be always very open to other disciplines when we face tourism and tourism industry. And the third one is to include the active participation of students in every step of the teaching and the activities that we try to organize. So we try to invite them to finally present their works, the projects, their group works. So I think these are the main three challenges we have to face.
Thank you. Sylvia, can I ask you the same thing?
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to reflect on the pilot. So I know that the COVID situation has raised many challenges, but focusing on the pilot and on this cooperative learning process, in our university we started 2 new courses for the pilot, and these courses. So we adapt the contents of the course. So we just brought the companies to help us to define the contents of each of the courses. And then we mixed, and we had some professionals coming to class to explain their professional experience. So it means that while I was teaching, for example, destination management, after me, someone being at the destination management organization came and explained his experience. So this was a challenge because professors involved in the pilot had the need to adapt and work together with professionals, trying to offer the balance between something more theoretical from one hand and on the other hand, something more applied. But I think that the positive result is that we complemented each other, and students were happy with this. And then when they went to the companies, they were able to apply what they learned. So it was very enriching.
Great, thank you. Daniela, maybe I can come to you next.
Well, as I said, challenging for a lecture is actually imperative for us to redesign our programs and our course to be more dual. Here, we in the University of Split actually in the moment has some administrative barriers to become dual, like our colleague in Ravensburg. But over time, I hope that with motivation from all sides, from professors, from students, from business, actually, we can slowly change our curriculum and in sense to implement more practice in our official curriculum. So it will in future actually benefit students, and it will actually rise the level of their employment in future. So in that context, actually, it's not just a challenge for us, it is imperative actually for us to change ourselves and to actually more consider and present the importance of soft skills in our course from theoretical approach, and then actually students in their practice will actually easier accept and learn about soft skills.
Thank you. Marie, can I maybe come to you? So asking about challenges that teaching staff have faced through this process. Have they changed the way they teach?
The biggest challenge came about with COVID, not really because of the income project, because by coincidence, the same year that we got involved with the income project, we started our, let's call it, upgraded bachelor's program. So we had already integrated skills like the soft skills being taught across the study units and so on. So the first cohorts for this bachelor's were also the students that were involved in the project. But it was interesting in a way because what we're seeing that sort of, it was reconfirming, not that we needed it to that, but from a very practical perspective, what we had embarked, what we had set out to do. So it was more of an affirmation that what we are doing is we're on the right track. And obviously, what we will also keep in mind is that we would need a bit, maybe more industry input, the students to be more exposed to what is happening out there. It's not just the lecturer that is telling you this is sort of what happens in industry, but also getting this exposure. So I think it coincided quite well and was not all that challenging. Obviously, the challenge came then when we had to modify, like all of you, our delivery method. We were, prepared for it because we already had the platform and we were already doing this for some non-multi students, but not on full scale as we had to, go ahead. But for us, I think not just for the students, it was also for the lecturers, for everybody. It was a huge learning curve for us to get to grips with. So that was positive also as lecturers also, and not just for the students.
Thank you. Alexandra, I'll come to you next, and then maybe Jan can reflect on what everyone else has been saying as well as his experiences.
Okay, so thank you. And I'd like to say that I was a tutor previous COVID or pandemic situation. So that's the experience I'm going to share. I am in line with my colleagues have already said, but I'd like to highlight three aspects. One of them that I felt was one of my main challenges was the need to adapt my classes with more practical examples because students were expecting that. I have been trying to do that over the last years anyway, but I had to reinforce that, particularly with trying to direct with the typology of businesses they were working in, and also trying to make the link whenever I could with the soft skills that they could be developing. So that was one of the challenges. The second main challenge for me was the fact that we had to conciliate many other tasks and the time that we had to follow and to be there for them whenever they needed. To be honest, I think I was there all the time, but there was times that I had to, expand time during the day, but that was a challenge, definitely. And also, I hope this makes also sense, but it was a challenge for me that I really embraced, because whenever we were in classes, I also had students who were not doing the pilot, and I tried to include everyone. In other words, I tried to create a balanced experience for them as well. And so I tried for those who were not in the pilot to not feel different or that they were not having a good learning experience as well. So that was a good challenge for me, how to deal with everything and with everyone and trying to make this link. Students, those were doing the pilot, they were very, very helpful because they would help me to explain certain things and also to involve other colleagues. So that was very useful, but it's a fact that it's a challenge, considering that the work overload that we have. But in the end of the day, it's a good challenge, definitely.
Thank you. And finally, Jan.
Yeah, to take on what my colleague said, actually a dual system, that's our experience, is indeed not only very time consuming, it is and remains always a challenge because it's in a constant state of change. And indeed, specifically because the students learn something in the companies as they do in theory. In the company, the experience is, or the experiences are very different. Sometimes it's going very well, sometimes not. Some have very vivid experiences, others feel bored. So this is also something you have to deal with when they come back to the university. And then again, it starts to give you some examples of challenges for lecturers to deal with these experiences in your lecture, because when students come back, they always know a bit better what they want and also what they don't want. And sometimes they also feel they know which subjects are important and which are not really important for them. So, or also for contents, it can happen to you that you teach something and the student raises his hand and very politely tells you, yeah, but this is absolutely not how it works in our company. So this is something that's only happening in the dual system. So you have to deal with that. It is a challenge, but it's also a chance, because it almost always leads to a discussion where other students come up to tell them, yeah, but we do it like this. So you can discuss how different approaches are. And at the same time, it's a chance for me to really gain insights into the companies, how they work. And it obviously also leads to change my lectures and sometimes to change our study program when new things come up.
Thank you. That's a really great addition to the comments. Okay, just keeping an eye on time. So let's move on to the next section where we talk about working with industry. And I wondered just how easy it's been to work with the industry partner organizations. We've obviously talked about time commitments, but has there needed to be adjustments to how you work? And by that, I suppose I was wondering if there's a mismatch between how academic institutions work and how the partner organizations and businesses work, because we often know there are different senses of time, for instance. So besides the time element that goes into these programs, have your institutions supported any of this extra work that you needed to do? Maybe we'll start again. Daniela, maybe I can start with you.
Before pilot and during the pilot, actually we have maintained good relations with the business. This actually within income, actually we arrange a new cooperation, and we actually introduce and become closer with some business which actually participate in our activities and which promise that in future will give option to our students to make practice in their companies. Also in our faculty, we actually set advisory committee for tourism and hospitality business, which will in future foster our engagement, our intention toward more cooperative learning in our actual education process. So in that context, actually, all this actually project actually offer us a new chance for better alignment with business, and it was also business side we are also satisfied and happy with this possibility and this option.
Thank you. Marie, maybe I can come to you next.
Yes. Okay. So about the working with industry, it was not just of benefit to the students because they were able to see how industry works in real terms, not only what they are taught, from academic theory and so on, but they were also encouraged to give feedback to industry themselves. And I think this also helps then the, let's say, would-be employers to maybe redesign or readdress certain issues that they might not even have considered looking into. So I think it was not just, a one way. Normally you get the employer talking down to the employee. This time, because we had the trio, so you would have this communication between the three partners. Actually, there was this feedback which was taken on board. So I think from that aspect, it was quite good. As regards changing our course, as I said, we had already started the change. And at this point, the students that came on the income project were already assigned to 100 hours, what we call placement. And then with the income, they added on to that. Now, in the second year, students will get to 100 hours. So in a way, as a university, we learned also from this, let's say, extended placement period, also from the perspective of logistics. Because if you've got lecturing, you've got assignments and so on, students find it very challenging, and even the employer and so on, to juggle all of this. So again, it was, something that we needed to address, and actually we are going to, what we learned from it, we are going to be applying it in next year with our course next year. Something we didn't talk about, but I'd like to just bring this in as an aside. A lot of students found the time during COVID to be a very lonely time. I mean, it happened to nearly everybody, but the students obviously felt quite isolated because they would have in the past, gone to the campus, met up, went out, but we had semi-lockdowns. We didn't have full lockdowns in Malta, but we did have sort of, you can only go out 2 people from a different household or 4. It also meant that they missed out on this, let's say, socialization. But because they were doing the work practice, then actually they could go to work and were allowed to meet with others. So again, this was also, quite good for them. It wasn't planned that way, obviously, but it was another added benefit.
Thank you. Jan, maybe I can come to you next. Again, I know this is a different situation for you because the way that your whole setup is actually about this sort of cooperative learning. But I wondered if you had any reflections on how academic institutions and industry work together.
Well, maybe it is interesting because one might think, since we do that since 40 years, everything is settled, we know how it works, processes are done, etc. Yes, somehow yes, but somehow not. It's a continuous challenge because we have new partners, new students, and also the university. They all are different stakeholders with different interests, and in practical work life, of course, matters, conflicts change all the time, like people do. So what is really helping to reflect on how we do it is, of course, getting processes in line, to develop routines, to gain experiences. But to be honest, I think the most important thing are a trustful, long-lasting relationships, to really try to get involved with your companies and build up trust, because that helps in any kind of conflict, to just take the phone or video conference system to talk about it and to solve it. And the same applies to our students. That's why we have very small groups. I think this is also a key fact or a key aspect in dual education.
Thank you. Alexandra, maybe I can come to you.
Okay, so that was very easy to work with the industry, and definitely was a good challenge, and also a chance to improve certain things as well. One of the aspects that I'd like to reinforce is what Jan just said, the trust and the close relationship. What I felt was because I knew the businesses, or the company people that I was working with, and we knew each other before, so I think that was a very helpful aspect. But also I think it was important for the industry to look at us with different eyes, if I may say so, because I had different experiences. In two cases specifically, they were familiar-based enterprises, and different people involved with the project in a different way, and different people with different perspectives. So there was a time that I had the need to step up and to be the link between the students' expectations and also the companies, because sometimes the industry look at us as if we are in a different world because we are not in a day-to-day life. And I think that was, as a tutor, I felt I was important to make that link and talk with them with my practical experience as well before becoming a lecturer. And I think that was important. So to sum up my idea, the closer relationship that we had before was really helpful, but the great commitment that we all had to involve and make the experience to be successful for everyone, to be a win-win, that was important. And definitely, I think it helped these two businesses in particular to look to the academia with different eyes. That is my perspective.
Thank you. Federica, I don't think I've come to you yet, have I?
Yeah, thank you. Our master course has always kept a cooperative learning, let's say, and long-lasting relationships between university and stakeholders, both private and public, let's say. We have, in our university, we have a very important help from the office which manage this relationship, and this is very useful to link teaching and every kind of experience that we try to give to our students in relationship to these stakeholders. We have two ways to deal with this cooperation. One is an internal organization of the master course, where we have a steering committee, which twice a year or once or twice a year, we meet with local stakeholders in order to share our teaching proposal, and we discuss about any kind of needs that they face for the future of new professions that we need for tourism in our region. At the same time, we work together for research projects, for example, so applied projects, where we try to involve also our students. The second point is more on the teaching, so it's related to the study plan. In the study plan, we have traineeships and workshops, which are compulsory. And in both cases, so traineeships is, as you know, the period where they stay in the industry, while the workshops are conducted together, teaching staff and the stakeholders, and we work on a specific project with a very interactive and student-oriented approach, so that in any case, we continue to meet regularly with local stakeholders. So I think we didn't have any problem with the income project because it was part of our mood, let's say. It was not a hard task at all. But of course, it's a great opportunity to push and to face new challenges in this partnership, especially where I would add after and during and after the pandemic, because in this period, many institutions working in the tourism sector looked at us as a point of reference, as like someone to go to and to talk to in order to face how to deal with this change. And yesterday we had a big important steering committee where we decided to enlarge to the institutions of the region these organizations. So I think that in this case, the Income Project is an example of how universities can really help give a hand to institutions and the industry, especially when we have crisis. So I think it's very important.
Thank you. That's a great final comment. And finally, Sylvia.
Yes, thank you. I will start also with what Federica was saying, that in our case, we were not starting from zero. And Alexandra also mentioned this, because we had work already with some of the companies, because we have this internship program already. So for the pilot, we selected some companies that we had we had this trust that was also mentioned with them. But it's true that we have different ways of working, because as we are a public university, a public institution, bureaucracy is quite difficult. And for example, if you have to sign an agreement with them, so they go and signing, and it's quite easy. But in our case, it needs to go through our legal department, it needs to be reviewed, and it needs to be checked and double checked until it's not signed. So even our ways of work are different. We have realized with this Income Project that we can work together. And for example, we have someone, so we hired someone in our staff to support companies in filling, for example, the agreements and to support them with this extra work, because we realized that every minute that the company spends or invests in our students or in cooperating with us needs to be highlighted, because it's very valuable.
Thanks, Sylvia. Okay, we're just after 10 to, so I'm going to start beginning to sum up. So maybe I can ask each of you to just provide a short, what I've called a soundbite, sort of a very short sentence that sums up the perspective of the success of Income and what you think the future for the project might look like. Alexandra, maybe I can start with you.
Yeah, sure. I think the Income was very successful because basically it reinforced what we were already doing in some cases, not everyone's cases, of course, closer relationship with the industry, collaboration, and also valuing students. I mean, I'm not saying that we are not valuing them before, but having, because what students really like, and they were very happy with that, to feel that their ideas were useful. So I think that it allowed us to understand that real examples, real challenges, and give students the opportunity to think, to discuss, and to put their ideas into practice was for me one of the best results of the Income, because in the end, students are really, really more motivated. And as someone said already, as I think it was Sylvia, as persons, they were really, really happy with themselves. So I think for me, this personal related aspect, as well as the professional and overall experience, was very, very positive, for sure.
Great, thank you. Daniela?
Yes, thank you. I'm totally in line with Alexandra. Although I also think that Income was very successful from many aspects. Although we already had established some relationship with business, actually within Income we received chance to foster it, and actually Income was a trigger for new corporations with business, and I really believe that that project La Income will go on, and that will be part of some other project with very similar project aims and purpose, because really we find it very, very useful and very welcome from different perspectives and for all stakeholders in this very complex process.
Thank you. Federica?
Yeah, income project. So I think our colleague Roberta Garibaldi and Andrea Pozzi, who were the main staff engaged in this project, gave us a lot of feedbacks, good feedbacks. So in general, analyzing both benefits and critical points that you highlighted, I think it's a way of teaching us a model of going on in the future for stressing fruitful collaborations between universities, companies, and especially to engage students to be in their first person, the active people who create the link. So to engage them more in this important role that they have to represent universities where they are, when they are in the field with the stakeholders. So in our future, I see different opportunities to be in line with what Income Project suggested. So actively involving students to create new ways and new teaching activities to connect the world of tourism and the teaching of tourism, and especially to engage ourselves and have a challenge ourselves in trying to see opportunities, think tanks, labs, where we try to figure out together staff, teaching staff, students, and stakeholders to work together to better understand what is the main way to focus on tourism in our territories and facing our challenges and crises, as I said before.
Thank you. Marie?
Okay, so as I said earlier, we were already working very closely with stakeholders, holding focus group seminars, and the feedback was integrated into the study units. What I feel is that the future of income would lie in us being able to facilitate as much as possible how students can find ways to network and to build or exchange social and cultural capital. This is something that we need to instill in them and not do it for them ourselves, but have them learn how to do it, for themselves, because this is what they are going to be doing in the future. So therefore, if we can manage to find this way of building this social and cultural capital between us and also with industry through some partnership, therefore, this is going to help the students to be more facilitated to learn from this experience themselves.
Thank you. Jan?
Well, I totally agree with what my colleagues said, and I deeply believe in duality in education, not only because I work at THW Ravensburg, but I really think it helps students to gain early access to better and more interesting jobs. It helps companies to get to know these students very early already during their studies and to get a very skilled labor, but it also helps universities to get away from what Alexandra said, this image of the ivory tower, which is somehow far, far away, and to get much closer to the industry. So it is a good system. And when it comes to income, first of all, I really enjoyed to work together with all of you. That was an absolutely great experience. And I think it is a very, very good project and a great approach to further promote that model around Europe, around different institutions, because in a way it is a model that exists since a very long time, but specifically when it comes to higher education, it is still a quite young approach, which really deserves more attention.
Thank you. And finally, Sylvia.
Yes, so I am in line with what has been said already, but focusing on Girona, for example, we have one student that is continuing with the company where she did the internship, so is 1 out of 12, but considering the situation of the COVID, I think that it's quite good, let's say. And this course, we are continuing with the same structure of the pilot, with one course on accommodation management with 15 students enrolled and with 15 companies hosting the students. So this is important, and I think it's a good result, let's say. So the future is to continue working on with this line. And I agree with Jan, not only in our institution or within the universities of the income project, but to try to spread this, and especially focusing on high institutions, because we have seen that this already exists also in Spain, for example, in vocational training, but not at the university level. So, and it's a way of breaking this idea that the universities are like isolated, or so. I think that we have to work on this direction.
Thank you, Sylvia. Well, that's exactly, it's just ticked over to 12:01, so exactly on time. I'd like everyone to join me in thanking the panelists for a really interesting discussion. I think it shows how projects like this are really successful and really both help in bringing institutions across Europe together, but also are great initiatives for our students, and as many of the panelists just said, for bringing industry and higher education closer together. Thanks once again. Back over to you, Ricardo.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you to all the participants in this morning session. We will now have our lunch break and return at 2:30 to the last moment of this conference. Wish you a good lunch. Take care.